And good morning. I think we are live. If you are here, early birds in the chat, please give me a thumbs up or whatever that you can hear me so that I know I'm not screaming into the void. Anyway, yeah, I guess, yeah, I should say Micah. Yes, or good evening if you're across the pond, or good afternoon, wherever you may be. Anyway, this is a little bit of a live stream celebration as Red Fury Books hit 8K, which is crazy to me because, wow, this is the slowest growing channel ever, I think. It took me almost 2 years to hit 1,000, and then it's just been a steady growth since then. So I thought it was nice to kind of celebrate this milestone a little bit and just do a question and answer. Ask me anything. If you are here, just say hello in the chat and drop any questions in there. Additionally, I have a huge stack of books I'll be giving away along the way. I'll just kind of sprinkle these into the live stream as we are here. But I'll occasionally have to don the glasses to be able to read the comments. So yes, good morning, Michael. Hello, Heidi. Thanks for being here. Micah, once again, thanks for hanging out in the evening for you. Hey, Ben. Thanks, Ben. Actually, Ben, if I get my editing done, Ben's going to be on the channel tomorrow. I have a really fun collaboration video with 18 different booktubers talking about 21st century fantasy, and Ben submitted a clip for that. So you might see him on my channel tomorrow, provided the editing process this afternoon goes well. But thanks for stopping by here. Aslan's here. Hello. Ben, Quest for Lost Heroes. Oh, awesome. Yeah, the first four Draenei books, he's been 3 for 4 for me. The only one I didn't like was The King Beyond the Gate. I had to go look at the at the number there. Hey, Bridger from the Library Ladders here. He's going to be on that collaboration video again tomorrow if I'm able to get to it. Thank you for that and hanging out today. Jared's here. I'm going to be on his channel. I guess that's next weekend. That's going to be a fun one. So, silent viewer here. Hope this channel continues to grow. Thank you so much. I know that's, not everybody puts their comments and things like that, but it's so cool to just, meet all these people across the globe. K-Hod is here. Thank you so much. Have I read The Tommyknockers by Stephen King? Yes, this is a Q&A, so throw all the questions and ask me anything into the chat at any point here. Have I read The Tommyknockers? Yes, I have read The Tommyknockers, but I read The Tommyknockers probably around 1992, so I don't remember The Tommyknockers very well. So I know a lot of people don't like The Tommyknockers, but apparently you do, so I look forward to rereading it at some point. I do have a plan, kind of a life goal plan of after I do a Dark Tower reread next year or the year after, I'm going to reread all of King's novels and do them like one a month, do a review and all of that. But that'll take a while, but that's okay. I mean, for me, King is kind of my cozy reads. So, Janny, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. So cool to see a very big name author in the chat here and a great booktube supporter. Thank you, Cyprian. Definitely appreciate it. Stay frosty. There is no frosty here in Texas right now. It's like 110 every day. It's been beautiful. Despite that, I'm still sipping coffee. But anyway, yeah, it's horrible right now. Like our lows every night, our overnight low is like 80 degrees, which is just horrible because there's no relief. So hopefully soon I can feel frosty. Maybe we'll get a Saturday brunch live show again in the future. Yes, I really want to get back to that. I just haven't started getting that organized. I have plans of doing that. And in fact, I've talked to a couple of people about this. I want to kind of have those brunch chats kind of more focused, like maybe get 4 big fantasy readers together and just talk about modern fantasy or traditional fantasy or something like that. And maybe get like one of my favorites that I did of that series, the Brunch and Book Talk, was when I had 3 authors on there and just asked them and they talked about writing, and I really enjoyed that. So that's probably the direction I'll take that series. I just need to start it. So Heidi, keep bugging me. And maybe I'll finally remember to do that. Any book you've read recently that sticks out in your mind? Probably my book of the year so far this year is The Given Day by Dennis Lehane. I've been reading a lot of Lehane this year. The Given Day is one of his more historical fiction types of novels, and I think I'm still rereading a bunch of his other stuff that I read a longer time ago, but it may be his best book. And it's probably my front runner for book of the year, but I'm about to read a couple books that I am pretty confident are going to give Lehane a run for their money. But that being the Sarantine Mosaic by Guy Gavriel Kay. I have no doubt that those books are going to be amazing for me. So, but that's probably the best one that I've read this year. A couple others that I really loved. I love The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wong. Really enjoyed that. I love Stormbringer by Michael Moorcock. So it's been a really good year of books for sure. So I guess wait till the end of the year and you can see what the Red Fury Book Awards comes up with. So how do you like the Tommy Knockers? So at least there's two of you there. Cyprian's halfway through The Outsider. Yeah, that one had a lot of really great moments in it. And in many ways, I think that's one of the better Holly Gibney novels that King did. I know he keeps coming back to that character, but I really like The Outsider. That was a very good one. Hey, and a hello from the Netherlands. For me, that's someone asked me, like real life person asked me, why I kept doing the channel and everything. And they said, you're making a lot of money. And I laughed at them. But anyway, for me, the coolest thing of this channel is meeting book readers from all across the world. And, reading is such a solitary activity. To be able to find readers from all over, like the Netherlands right here, and to be able to just chat about books, whether it's in the comments section of the video or the Fireside Discord or other places. It's just really cool that we can take this very solitary activity and build community around it. And I just love that aspect of it. And that's the primary reason I keep doing this for sure. Heidi, stay tuned. I have a video about this in September. Dragonbone Chair on the 2025 TBR. Hello from Croatia. Thank you for coming by here. What do you think about Winds of Winter coming this earlier next year? I think he's almost done. I love your optimism, Bert, but I don't share it. I don't think I'm pessimistic in thinking that it'll never come out. I am pessimistic in thinking that the final book of the series will never come out. But I think we will get Winds of Winter, but I've stopped hoping for when. I do want it to be soon, though. You'll see when I talk about my monthly wrap-up. I just read Fire and Blood for the first time, and it was outstanding. I mean, so good. And it made me want to pick up Song of Ice and Fire again, but I won't reread Song of Ice and Fire, the first 5 books, until Winds of Winter comes out. So I hope it's soon, because I really do want to read that. So I hope that those of you that are in the optimistic camp are correct with this. So, hey, Brian from BellTube is here. Thank you, Brian. Brian's going to be on that collab video that I hope comes out tomorrow. Again, with some, there's like 18 videos I have to splice together, but it's really cool just seeing everybody talk about kind of some of their favorite things of 21st century fantasy. So thank you for stopping back by, Brian. I tried to stop by Wednesday, and evenings just at the beginning of the school year are just kind of non-existent for me right now. So, hey, Esme made it. Thank you. We got 2 of you from the Netherlands here. Appreciate you. So Winds is already done. Martin is writing Dream right now. I hope you are right. How cool would that be if they came out back to back? I've heard this rumor before, so I don't know. I just know that every Saturday, part of my Saturday ritual when I'm having my first cup of coffee, this is number 2, I check George R.R. Martin's blog, and he has not mentioned Winds of Winter since June of last year. Before, he was always saying, it's slow, but I'm making progress. He hasn't even talked about it for 14 months. So that's maybe why my optimism is at a low. And I know that he's doing a lot of other things. I mean, he's talking about all the different series that are going to be coming out and all of that. So I hope you were right. That would be just amazing, because I think so many of us believe that we'll never see the end of the series unless somebody else writes it. So Kale is here. Thank you for stopping by here. What book hit you like a storm with story? Oh, man. That's a hard one. Too many to name. I guess you're asking what stories kind of hit me. I don't know. I'm unsure a little bit with the question, but I would say one thing that I have started to really enjoy over the last like 5 years is when kind of the manner of storytelling is a little unorthodox. For instance, I'd mentioned sort of Kaigen. I like the structure of that book being quite a bit different than you normally see in kind of a traditional fantasy novel. So I guess that'll be my answer for that one. Davor, greetings from Macedonia. Thank you for stopping by today. Heidi has fallen down the GGK rabbit hole. That is awesome. Yeah, Jake has it as his #1 with Brightness Long Ago. Can you believe there are better books than Lions? For me, my favorite is A Song for Our Bond, but I mean, it's splitting hairs. Song for Our Bond, I think, for me, it's a favorite because of the musical tie-ins. And being a lifelong musician, I just really connected with just those themes and those characters and how that was just an integral part to the story. But Guy Gavriel Kay is just remarkable. I've read 5 so far, and he's 5 for 5. I mean, I can say that of the 5 I've read, I think Tigana is the worst, and Tigana is really good. So he's amazing. Yeah, I'm starting Sarantine probably Sunday, the first book, and I'll spread those out just a little bit. But yeah, it's definitely he's just shooting up my favorite author list. He's the reason I need to make a new favorite author top 10. Yes, Micah, for sure. Community is definitely the best part of this. And Micah's a mainstay in our Fireside Discord. And yeah, it's definitely just so cool to talk about the books that we love and the books that we don't love and all of that. So I don't know why, but I feel like Dream of Spring. So, okay, we have some, I love the optimism with Martin here. So, okay, here's a good question. What's my reading routine like? I read every night, and it's kind of the last thing I do. Maybe an hour or 2 every night, sometimes more, at least an hour. It's not like I, set the timer and say, okay, I'm going to bed in an hour, I'm going to start reading. I just, at a certain point in the evening when I'm winding down, I just end up sitting down and opening up a book. So that's kind of my routine. But I would say on average, I read probably 90 minutes to 2 hours every evening. I don't read during the day except for weekends. And on the weekends, I'll often read. Maybe after lunch, I'll sit down with a book for an hour or 2. But pretty much that's it. But I think that just that much amount, I'm able to read quite a bit. Thank you, sir. Another one of our favorites in the Fireside Discord. Michael should be doing yard work right now. Oh, you broke your toe. Sorry about that, but thanks for hanging out. Yeah, any excuse to postpone yard work is a good thing. All right. Question from Esme. With me being a music buff, do I ever listen to anything while reading? I do not, because if I turn on music, then I'll be listening to music. And for me, if music's playing, it's never in the background. I'm always listening closely, probably analyzing. But yeah, music as a background thing doesn't work for me unless it's something mindless, like if I'm cleaning or the rare times that I cook. Those kinds of things, I'll have music on like that because it can it doesn't distract me. But if I were trying to read and listen to music, it just wouldn't work for me. So Hans Love Fire and Blood. Yeah, same thing. I hope we do get volume 2, because I definitely want to see kind of the last half of that story. I was really surprised how much I loved, just loved the storytelling of Fire and Blood. It's written in a very historical manner, but was still extremely well told. So hope the last war pops up. Really fresh storytelling. Yeah, so the thing I can say about that collab video that's going to come out is it's not what I expected. I was expecting, to be honest, like if I had 20, how many did I get? 18 me being 19. So if I got around 20 videos, I was thinking that 10 of them would say Storm of Swords, but that's not the case. I think the most any book was picked was twice. So there's really a lot of variety in kind of that video that's hopefully coming out tomorrow if I get my editing done. So new to fantasy, Way of Kings. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hey, we got a good contingent from Netherlands in the chat today. That's so awesome to me. I've never been there. I need to go there at some point. But yeah, Sanderson, I binged some Sanderson when I got back to reading fantasy, and especially Stormlight, the first two books. Those two books were pretty remarkable. Hey, Shad, thanks for coming by. Thank you, Evie. Evie will be on that collab video as well, so you can see her choice. I'm doing it right. Turn off the phone and TV a couple hours before sleep and read in bed. Yeah, Kale, I do the same thing. I've gotten into this habit of putting my phone on sleep mode and putting it in the other room about an hour before I plan on going to bed, just so it doesn't distract me, and it also doesn't interrupt me. You know, if I'm reading, you hear a notification and then you're kind of taken out of it. Even if I happen to just be watching television or something, I do put my phone to bed. I told a colleague this, and the younger colleague, and he was horrified that I was able to do this. But yeah, I do that as well. I think that's definitely a great strategy because it's just, I mean, it's the eternal distractor. Congrats on 8K. Thank you. Thank you. Besides classical music, any genres I like. Have you ever tried metal or rock? I actually listened to a lot of that when I was younger. I loved a lot of the kind of growing up in the 80s, a lot of the kind of heavy metal hair band types. I mean, probably my favorite back then was Motley Crue. And I still kind of have a soft spot in my listening to that. But actually, I mean, classical music is my preferred what I listen to, but I do listen to a lot of jazz. I listen to movie soundtracks, and I do listen to maybe not a lot of modern pop because I think a lot of it is so manufactured that it's not as good, frankly. And I sound really old saying that. But I always look at some of these modern pop songs because sometimes I'll play them with my orchestra for like a fun pops concert, and it'll have like, 7 names of the people that wrote this repetitive little pop tune. And I think back to, the Beatles, it was 2 guys. And I think back to a lot of the older kind of rock and roll musicians. Like a favorite of mine's Billy Joel. Everything is words and music by Billy Joel. So I generally do only listen to classical music and jazz most of the time, but I do have a good collection of a lot of that. Pretty much every genre. The only kind of music, frankly, I've not really enjoyed is kind of country music, except for some of maybe the classic country artists like Johnny Cash or late Elvis. But for the most part, that's about the only kind of music that just I don't listen to at some point. So, total sense about music. Speaking of cooking, favorite type of cuisine to cook? I don't cook much, but as far as eating, I've always loved Italian food. You can't tell by the way I look, but my mother's side of the family, I have a grandfather that was 100% Italian. So that side of the family, we ate a lot of Italian food. Like holidays, we would have pasta, not having turkey and things like that on Christmas and things like that. But yeah, that's probably my favorite. But I do, living in Texas, I do love Mexican food as well. Love Thai food. I'm an equal opportunity food fan for sure. Evie asking the spear cut through water pick twice. Maybe you shall see. So Evie's alluding to, I'll just tell you a little bit more about the video tomorrow because it's going to be really cool. The prompt that I gave all of the booktubers was the greatest fantasy novel of the 21st century is fill in the blank. And so many people cheated or changed the prompt or just came up with a clever end around. And it was really cool just seeing the diversity of the selection. So there's one video you have to watch carefully. I really liked where the booktuber was talking about their selections, and in the background had like some prominently displayed books, and it said, "These are my honorable mentions." So it was a way to kind of have 10 books in the video. So yeah, that is tomorrow. If I get to the Netherlands, fresh stroopwafel from the market. Good to know. I'm going to actually write that down. I always take notes during these things. Usually it's book recommendations, but food recommendations work for me too. This is good. Did you read Sailing to Sarantium? I'm starting Sunday. So that answer in about a week will be yes. So thank you, John. John from Talking Story will be on that collab video tomorrow as well. What is my favorite fantasy map? Let me just go old school and say that the original Middle-earth map has to be my favorite. And one of my special editions, there's like a big fold out of it. So that one's probably my favorite. Yeah, Brian, the late Elvis. I meant Elvis late in his career, but yeah. Okay. Oh, greetings from Denmark. Top 5 favorite classical music composers. This is easy for me, and you're going to see a trend from this. Number 1, Beethoven. Number 2, Brahms. Number 3, Wagner. Number 4, Mahler. Number 5, Strauss. So you can tell that I love German orchestral music the most out of classical music. Yep. Nice. Heidi listens to some Billy Joel. Love it. Okay, so Sailing to Sarantium is your favorite of GGK. That's awesome. Thank you for the congrats. Have I read Canticle of Leibowitz? Canticle for Leibowitz. I have but it's been quite a long time. It's still on the shelf. I remember at the time, I don't think that I appreciated it for what it was because I was expecting something else. A friend had recommended it, and I think the way he recommended it didn't really give me an idea what the book was going to be about. But it's on the shelf. Books that I'm kind of lukewarm on, but I want to try again, I keep. So it is in that category for me. So another Sarah reading. Congratulations from Wales. Yeah, Jake and Bridger are the two kind of GGK big fans that have kind of spread the love of this author. And yeah, he can do no wrong for sure. I'll get to everything. I'm purposely been kind of slow rolling my reading of Guy Gavriel, just because I enjoy it so much and I don't want to read all of them and then be done. I want to kind of spread it out as much as I can. So I probably will do, obviously the 2 books of Sailing to Sarantium and Lord of Emperors. Those 2 will happen this year. And then maybe Last Light of the Sun as well. A viewer sent me that one and it's on the shelf. So I do want to read that as well this year, but I am trying to kind of take my time. So Mindolin, thank you for hanging out. Yay, a Brahms fan. Yeah, Brahms is pretty amazing. Currently reading Lathe of Heaven. I've not read Lathe of Heaven. The only Le Guin I read Left Hand of Darkness in high school, and I don't remember any of it. And I've read all of the Earthsea books in the last 3-4 years and really enjoyed those. I mean, she's a beautiful writer. I think she's vastly underrated for her. And I'll definitely read more. I do want to read The Dispossessed. I do want to try The Left Hand of Darkness again. So I'll definitely be getting to more of her for sure. Yeah, different Beethoven. I do love Arvo Pärt. I think it's pronounced Pärt. Some really interesting kind of modern compositions. And there's a couple of them I plan on performing with my orchestra. There's Jared. 4 solid choices there. Aslan, GGK, and Tad Williams are the authors. Yeah, I've heard those, and then I've heard someone say that like GGK is your favorite author's favorite author, which I kind of like that way of putting it as well too. So let's see. Have I read the Space Odyssey series? No, I read the first one in 2001. I remember that I saw a special edition and I bought it and I really enjoyed it. I plan on rereading it probably next year, actually, because it's been a while. I haven't read the other ones because I've heard such mixed receptions on those, so I don't know if I'll continue with those or not. Let's see. Call those two. Bach is a favorite. Yeah. And hearing Bach from a pipe organ, if you're actually present, like being in a church or a cathedral with an amazing organ, there's no better way to experience the music of Bach. And if anyone ever says Bach is their favorite composer, I just say, yep, perfect choice. I mean, he's kind of the best. It's like saying if Tolkien's your favorite fantasy author. Yep, works for me. Can't argue with you there. So, all right, let's do a giveaway, and then I'll come back to the chat after that. So there were 83 people that signed up for these giveaways, and I had 3 books, and it turned into 4 books from my shelf that I was going to give away. And then I reached out to 3 self-published authors that I've read in the last couple months whose books I really enjoyed, and just asked them if they would contribute and send a book for this giveaway. And they were really, really happy to do that. So really pleased with that. So I'm going to start with one of theirs. The first one, he has it wrapped up in a ribbon, so I don't want to take it out of there, but I'll show you the book here. This is the Garden Gnome, Theory Magic Book 1 by Jeff McIntyre. And I read this last month and really enjoyed this. In many ways, my biggest criticism with this book was actually that the cover doesn't really portray what this book is about. It's kind of like a modern day fantasy with a little blend of sci-fi thriller type of book, where you kind of have these 2 different, I'll keep the book up so everyone knows what I'm talking about. You have kind of 2 different factions in this book, where one of them is trying to make sure that magic doesn't return, and the other faction is trying to usher in the return of magic. And I really like that McIntyre kind of obscures for you which of the 2 factions is kind of the correct one. So I really enjoyed this book. The ending was great. It's the first in a series, and the author, who's on Fireside quite a bit, mentioned that he's in kind of his 3rd edit of the 2nd book, so that might be out soon. He also, it's wrapped up. That's why I'm showing you my copy. He's also giving you a little garden gnome as well. So I will ship this to whoever the winner is. So there are 83 people that signed up for the giveaway. I'm going to put the wheel of names on the screen, and hopefully this works. I want this. Okay, it looks like it worked. All right, so everybody on the screen, if you've signed up, you have a 7 in 83 chance of winning one of the books. So let's see who our first winner is. This is exciting. Oh, it's Mindolin, who is actually here. So very cool. As with all of the winners of these books, what I will do is I will reach out to you via email to get your mailing address, and I'll ship these within the next week or so. But that was off to a good start because the person was actually in the chat. Pretty cool. All right, back to the comments here. And again, this is a Q&A AMA with interspersed book giveaways. So feel free to drop any questions you have on me in the chat. Let's see. The 4K series is great. I don't know that series. Is that, let me know the author of that one. Is that the one that Jake was reading recently? I don't remember that one. So Ursula Le Guin's Fantasera Tomi. Okay, I've never heard of that author, Evie. I'm writing that down too. So very cool. It was Mindolin one elsewhere. So very cool. Okay, so that was Bujol, the 4Ks again. Yeah, I'm starting to think, Jake and I have very, very common tastes in books, because I think both of us, I can say confidently at this point that my 2 favorite fantasy authors are Robin Hobb and Guy Gabriel Kay, because I've read enough Kay now to know that that's true. So I think that's the same for him. So his recommendations definitely carry weight. We were talking about BookTube earlier. That's one of the cool things about seeing all the different people with different channels, even channels where I don't have the same tastes in books with people. I love watching and hearing the way people talk about the books. But when you find the channels and the people that kind of have the same favorites as you, it really shows you, you know, it makes me really listen when I see recommendations from them. So let's see. Oh, back to the Space Odyssey. 2010 still good. 2061 side story. Wow, I didn't even know there was a 3001. I thought there were only 3. So I guess there's 4 of them now. I do remember enjoying the first one quite a bit. So probably next year. It's near the top of my reread list that I want to do. So Lois McMaster Bujold wrote the Vorkosigan series. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Start with Warrior's Apprentice. I'm writing that down too. Yeah, there was a chat just recently, like this morning on the Fireside Discord, about a lot of the great kind of more classic authors that for whatever reason we're not always seeing. So it's always good to kind of rediscover these. Getting more structurally interesting stuff in the minute. Ash, A Secret History by Mary Gentle, and I'm reading it at well. Very cool. Weirdly, I'm writing that down. That looks like a good one to me. Yeah, probably the first really interesting structural book I ever read was about 10 years ago when I read Cloud Atlas, and it just blew my mind. And I kind of appreciate that kind of storytelling, that when it's done well like that, it's just really amazing. Favorite classics author, John Steinbeck for me. Steinbeck is definitely my favorite of the classic authors. He's a top 5 for me. I've read, what do I have over there? About 10 of his books. So I have about 7 or 8 to go. And I do have one on the TBR shelf as well. So, well, another one, I didn't even know there was a 2010 movie. I'm so behind with that. Just like someone brought up in the Discord at one point, different Stephen King adaptations, and I hadn't seen half of them, which makes me feel like a bad Stephen King fan, but like my TV gets turned on like twice a week. So I'm so behind all of that. Recommendation, Lord of a Shattered Land by Andrew Howard Jones. Modern Sword and Sorcery meets the Odyssey and Witcher short stories. I'm glad you mentioned Witcher short stories, because that's the extent of The Witcher that I enjoyed. I didn't like the novels. I don't know if the novels were that I didn't like them because of the translation or not. I found the characterization just inconsistent. Like some of the characters were fully fleshed out and a lot of them weren't. But I don't know how much of that is the translation. But I did love the Witcher short stories. So have I read Between Two Fires, blend of horror and medieval historical fiction? No, that one's on the TBR spreadsheet, though, because I have heard good things about that one. Emilio Salgari is a forgotten classic author. Started his Sandokan series and loving it. I've never heard that name before. So, Emilio Salgari. I'm going to run out of things to write here. Thank you, Mac. Appreciate it. And thank you for the playlist of videos. I watched those the other day. I reached out on the Fireside because my extent of world history knowledge is kind of lacking. So I wanted to know if there was anything I should know about kind of the time period that Sarantine Mosaic is based off of. And Mac gave me a great playlist. So, hey, let's give away another book. So this one is for my shelf. Let me get the... Actually, I'll talk about the book first. So this was a last-minute entry. I am currently... Well, I've made it, kind of. Michael Connelly is one of my favorite authors, and I had been slowly turning the various paperbacks into hardcovers, and I'm pretty much there. I have all of them, except for some of them are omnibus editions, and then I have one that's a book club edition, but they all are hardcover. So I'm going to give away the last one that I found in hardcover, and this is actually a great starting point for Connelly. This is The Lincoln Lawyer. And this was the movie tie-in edition that I had. So if you haven't read Connelly, he writes crime fiction. He's one of my favorite authors, top 5, I think, on my last list. He was 3rd or 4th, actually. The thing about Michael Connelly is that he is the most consistently great author I've read full stop. Although Guy Gavriel Kay is getting into that conversation. Connolly's ceiling and floor, the range is very small. Like I give the analogy of this with like a Stephen King. Stephen King's ceiling is a 10 out of 10, but his floor is like a 2 out of 10. I mean, he has some books in there that are just, anyway, don't want to talk ill on this live stream. It's a celebration, but you know, King's floor is pretty low, but Connolly, like maybe his highs are not a 10 out of 10. Maybe it's a 9 point something. But his lows are like a 6. I mean, he's Mr. Consistent, just greatly plotted stories. So this is Lincoln Lawyer, and this is actually a great starting point for Connolly, although you can pretty much start anywhere. But Lincoln Lawyer is a great starting point because it's the first time you see this character. And when I looked at this cover, because I forgot this was the tie-in edition because it's just been on the shelf. In the movie, Matthew McConaughey played the Lincoln Lawyer. And the Lincoln Lawyer is about a lawyer whose office is his Lincoln Continental. And I think Connolly did Lincoln like commercials. So that's a kind of a cool meta tie-in, which wasn't present when this came out. But anyway, this is a really great entry point. This is a great legal drama. Connolly's books are just impeccably plotted. So if you've never read Connolly, this is a great entry point. So let me bring up the wheel and we will spin again. So let's see. Remember how to do this. Here it is. All right, let's see who our winner of the Lincoln Lawyer is. And it is Nemo. So, Nemo, if you are here or on Team Replay, I'll reach out to you via email in the next week or so to get your email address so that I can send you this book. All right, let me get back to the chat and then we'll do another drawing there. So Sebastian, congrats on HK. What 5 countries would you love to visit and who's your favorite non-English author? Okay, first question first. 5 countries you'd love to visit. Number 1 has to be Italy. I've not been to Italy. And that's probably my next trip, actually. So I would say Italy is probably number 1. I've never been to Spain or Portugal, probably 2, 3. I've never been to anywhere in kind of Southern Asia. I've been to Japan and Korea, so probably like Thailand, Vietnam, maybe. That's kind of off the cuff. Favorite non-English author. Does Guy Gavriel Kay count? Or do you mean non-English language? Probably non-English language. So translated fiction, probably Dostoevsky. I think that's probably the biggest non-English speaking author that I've read, at least the most that I've read as an author, from an author. So that would probably be there. Oh no, I'm forgetting. Dumb. I'm forgetting Haruki Murakami. So Murakami is definitely the answer to that one because I've read like all but 4 of Murakami's works at this point. Hey, better late than never. I've given away 2 books so far, and I have 5 more to go. It is question and answer. Ask me anything. So throw your questions in the chat, and I'm just putting the books in here periodically when I kind of get caught up on the comments. So yeah, the Rosa soundtrack to Ben-Hur sounds perfect, especially because I've heard from you and others that there's a big chariot race in Sarantine Mosaic. So I look forward to that. I've always loved the Ben-Hur soundtrack. Miklos Rosa was actually a lot of the film composers from his era were also serious classical music writers as well. And you can hear it in their film scores because frankly, they're so much more advanced than a lot of other more modern kind of composers that you hear, especially the way that they wrote and orchestrated for the orchestras. It was really in that kind of late Germanic kind of school that they really knew how to write for the orchestra. You know, Miklos Rosa, Eric Korngold, Max Steiner, those kinds of composers, just fantastic. And Rosa wrote a great violin concerto. He wrote some really great kind of more serious standalone music that wasn't with movies. So yeah, I've always been a fan of Rosa. He has a very just interesting harmonic language. So omnibus edition of Ash, my most ambitious fantasy novel I've ever read. Oh, that sounds fascinating. I'm putting a star for that because we got Micah and Jimmy, and now Bridger recommend that. That is amazing. I read The Steel Remains. Read it recently, left a mark on me. I don't know that one, so I don't know the author. So drop that in there. But I haven't read. I've never heard of that book. So thank you, Matt. Thanks for hanging out, Matt. Of course, one of my cohorts on the Fireside Discord. Yay, another Connolly fan. Yes, he's another one. At some point, I'll start rereading all of his books because I read them kind of in a very haphazard way at the start. I read like 6 or 7 of them, and then I started back at the beginning. So it will be fun to, just definitely fun to get to. If I had any ambitious video ideas you'd love to do, we've never found the time to make. Yes, and I'm finally doing one. So I've been talking about the works of Dennis Lehane all year. And I realized early in the year I wanted to do a summation video of his works. And I'm finally going to do it. And I have it in my brain. I've already kind of scripted it out. I've never done that for a video. I've scripted out portions of videos before. Like if you've seen my top 10 lists, I generally put a little bit more into those than just a typical video. For me, a typical video is turn on the camera, kind of just word vomit for like 20 minutes and then upload it. And most of the time that kind of works now, which is great. But the top 10 videos, I would normally script a little bit. I wouldn't script exactly what I would say. I would script kind of bullet points for each book, and then I would kind of riff on that afterwards. So I've done that a little bit. Those were kind of the most ambitious ones I've done so far. But the Lehane video I'm going to come up with is I've already scripted out most of it. And it will be a scripted video, and it's going to be a summation of all of his works. I'm going to talk about every single book. I have a method of a tier ranking that was heavily influenced / stolen from Library Ladder's Dan Simmons video, if you've seen that, where I talk about kind of the way that I kind of talk about the way that he executes, the kind of story he tells, because Dennis Lehane is an author that has a lot of scope. That's not just kind of focused in on one kind of crime fiction. So that's the most ambitious kind of thing I've ever done. I've already determined that it's probably going to take me like several days to do this, from the shooting to I have kind of some B-roll, and then I have some graphics ideas that I want to do. And for me, it's going to take quite a bit of time, but I've already started scripting that out as I finish each of the books that I reread that have not been, fresh on the brain. I'm kind of rewriting a new kind of review just for that video. And I'm really enjoying it because I look forward to it. So that's definitely something I haven't done. I've targeted, I have the week off for Thanksgiving, and I've targeted doing a lot of the work that week to hope to get this out by December. So hopefully that will be there too. So have I read Piranesi? Yes, Piranesi was amazing. And I'm kind of ashamed that I haven't read her other book yet, but what I loved about that book, that was another one that was just so different. And I love that when you just get a fantasy novel, because so much of a fantasy has just kind of a lot of traditional elements, and this was just so different. It felt so different. And this is a book that, if you haven't read Piranesi, it's really short and it's a quick read, and it's one of those books that you'll finish it and then you'll just keep thinking about it. I would say delightful surprise for me as well. It was one that I think the year I read it in December, and I had already gotten my Red Fury Books awards ready, and I had to sneak it into my finals because it was just so good. Amazing. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So entry point for Murakami. That's a pretty tough one. I would say for fantasy readers, I always forget the name. It's long. The Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World is a good entry point. There's kind of 2 stories. Murakami's brand of magical realism is quite weird, so it's hard to suggest a great place to start. That's probably the best place for a lot of people because that is one of his better books. But it's not like huge. It's not a huge chunky one. Some of his others, I think it's tough to recommend. I did enjoy Norwegian Wood, but that one's pretty divisive for a lot of people, so I don't like to recommend that one. So I think I'll stick to that one as my entry point for Murakami. Yeah, how'd I forget that? Yeah. Yes, yes. For sure. Favorite modern composer? I guess living composer? I would probably say Jennifer Higdon. I don't know if you know that name. She's written some really interesting orchestral and other works. Maybe go check out. She has a piece called Blue Cathedral that I really love. So that would probably be my choice. I read Edgar Allan Poe. Yeah, I haven't read Poe since high school, so it's been a while. But I do remember. I remember very clearly. I had a English teacher that would do dramatic readings of some of his poetry, and it really stuck with me because he had such a great delivery, and I really enjoyed Poe. Of course, younger people always love Poe because it's kind of dark, but I definitely have enjoyed his works. Can I recommend a fiction and nonfiction book that had a significant impact on you? Wow, that's a tough one. Significant impact on me. Honestly, I would say the emotional toll of the end of Assassin's Fate by Robin Hobb, I would say that was significant to me. You can't start there. You have to read at least 9 books to get there, if not all 16 of the Realm of the Elderlings. But that's probably the one that's had the most significant kind of personal impact on me, fiction. And nonfiction, this sounds strange, but for me, when I really read I did a video recently of memoirs and biographies that I love. When I read, for me, the best Beethoven biography by Maynard Solomon, there's a chapter in there when Beethoven realizes he's losing his hearing and he almost comes to the point of ending his life. And that chapter just really moved me. And I always think about that as kind of the ultimate example of just perseverance. So that had a significant impact for me, especially because I read that when I was in the middle of music school and things are tough and you're working really hard and it's hard to see the gains that you're making because they're so incremental and it's easy to, I had so many friends in music school that went and did other things. So for me, that helped inspire me to just keep going because I thought about this figure that lived through the most horrific thing ever. He's the best musician in the world at the time. And the thing that makes him the best musician in the world, he's losing that. So that's probably, for me, the most significantly impacting book of nonfiction that I've read. So it was Ash, A Secret History, Mary Gentile. There it is. Mary Gentile. So it sounds like a good one. I haven't read Blackwater yet. It's in my my point here. It's not on my physical TBR shelf, which you can see 2 of them here and here. And then I have 2 more in the other room. But I do want to read those. I know Mike's really enjoying those, and it's really been a lot of fun to see him talk about those books. It's on my TBR spreadsheet is the short answer there. How has reading and taste change over the years? I read a lot more genres than I did originally for pretty much my whole adolescence. Once I discovered fantasy, that's all I read, with a little bit of sci-fi sprinkled in, but that's all I was reading. As I got through college, I read a little bit more nonfiction, partially because I had to, and then partially I wanted to. And then when I took my break from the fantasy genre, which if you haven't heard me talk about it on the channel, I did not read a new book in the fantasy genre from about 1995 to about, I don't know, 2018, something like that. I took a big break from the fantasy genre. And in that time, I just kind of dabbled and I discovered things I enjoyed, all these different genres. So that's the biggest thing. And then I also realized, I mean, Matt, we've talked about this before, and I know a lot of us have talked about this, how sometimes you get a book and it's not at the right time. There's a lot of the authors that I love now that I know had I experienced them at the time, I wouldn't have appreciated. Like Guy Gavriel Kay. If I would have read Guy Gavriel Kay in 1992 as an 18-year-old, I would not have appreciated just how amazing he is, because I wasn't on that level yet. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is just how much I read around a lot of different genres. And for me, that's like the whole, what do you call it? Book slump. I honestly don't know what that is, because I read so many different genres that I don't get in a book slump, because when I go from, you know, a work of epic fantasy that's like huge world building, thick book, 1 million characters, and it has one kind of mental stimulus for me, and then I put that down and I pick up a crime novel that's plot based and frankly doesn't make me think about so much of those other things. It's kind of a good mental break for me to be able to do that. People call it palate cleansers. I don't like that, because I enjoy the palate cleansers tremendously, and I don't look at them as that. I don't look at them that like I need to do this to appreciate my big chunky fantasy novels. I read those because I love them. Like right now, I just started last night. I started a novel in the Firefly universe. #shiny. You know, Firefly is one of my favorite shows. Are these books like the highest order of art? No, but I love them. They're so much fun. I love the characters. They're good plots. They're good stories. I love those. So I don't look at it as a palate cleanser between like fantasy novels or whatever. So I think that's the biggest thing, kind of a long answer to a short question. Just finished Drink Before the War. Excellent. Yes. Yeah. I was blown away. That was Dennis Lehane's first novel. And from the first chapter, you realize that he's different than a lot of the crime authors. So yeah, he's definitely excellent. So hello, T Baggins is here. Yes, I desperately need to read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell as well. Yeah. Have I ever tried writing my own stories? Not really. I have tried writing a little bit, but not really fiction, more kind of like reflections on life and a memoir type thing. But yeah, I haven't tried my hand at that. And frankly, I think I wouldn't be good at that. I'm a musician, not an author. I think my prose is very journalistic, and I think I can write very well in that manner, because I kind of have to. But as far as being an author, like when I read, you know, like a sentence by some of these great authors that just have a way with words that I so appreciate, it doesn't work. I can't do that. I don't have that power. Yeah, Max Richter's great too. I don't know Hildur. I don't know that composer. Johan Johansson has some film music I've listened to, and I haven't discovered any other music by him. One of my favorite film composers is Michael Giacchino, though. Michael Giacchino is a chameleon of a composer. He's able to write orchestral scores and jazz like The Incredibles, or piano-based scores. He wrote the music from Lost, which is probably the best music ever written for the television medium. He wrote 91 hours of music for that show. I mean, ridiculous. So let's see. How much nonfiction do I read? Not as much as I'd like to. I definitely read probably, if I read 100 books in a year, which is about average for me, I probably read like 8 to 10 nonfiction works. So try to do that. Do I differentiate between modern composers who score movies and those who don't? I probably do. I think I do, just because thinking about the question earlier, when the question was posed, I didn't even think about modern film score composers like Giacchino or even John Williams, who's still writing a little bit. I think I do, maybe because most of the time that's where they live, in that realm. Like Giacchino does have an orchestral work that is really good. I think it's called Voyage. But for the most part, he's a film score composer. And he's great at that because he actually has a music degree from Juilliard and he has a degree in film from USC or UCLA, one or the two. So he's perfect because he's a musician that's great at storytelling. So he can kind of do both things very, very well. So I think there's less maybe crossover nowadays between them. Like Hans Zimmer, I think is fine as a film composer, but I don't think I'd ever want to listen to anything by him that's not with the movie. So I think I do differentiate because there is a little less of a little bit of less crossover than there used to be back then. So hello, good evening. Good evening. Yeah, if you're in India, good evening there. Instrumental music, Nox Arcana. Oh, that's interesting. Don't know that one. Do I read multiple books at a time? That's a good question. Yes, kind of. So I generally have 3 books going at once. I have a main novel that I'm reading, and then I have an audiobook that I'm listening to, and then I have a short story collection that I'm reading interspersed between novels. Okay, so I also try to make sure those 3 things are different enough that I don't cause myself any confusion. So like right now I'm reading, I mentioned the Firefly book, so kind of sci-fi Western is my main book. The audiobook I'm listening to is Gone Baby Gone, Dennis Lehane, so some crime fiction. And the short story collection that I'm interspersing in between the main novels is a reread of Night Shift by Stephen King. So I have kind of 3 things going on at once. But I generally don't put more than 1 novel at a time. For me, I love the immersive factor of reading, so I don't like to bounce around. So if I'm in a novel, my main novel that I'm reading, that's my primary thing that I am reading. If I could have dinner with 3 fictional characters, who would they be? Oh, that's crazy. Wow. Man. I have no idea on this one. Wow. I could probably answer that with authors, but yeah. 3 fictional characters to have dinner with. They wouldn't be from the First Law universe. Let me cross them off the list. Wow. That's a tough one. Let me just go, since I'm reading a Firefly book, I'll go there. So I don't want to give away any spoilers if you haven't seen the Firefly movie. So let's just say Malcolm and Wash and Zoe. There we go. Oh, that's a tough question. Shiny, yay, some Firefly fans here. Just finished the Inheritance game series. What? I don't know that series. So if anyone else has some recommendations in the chat, I'm not sure the genre for that one. Favorite book. I don't want to give this away because I have planned out. So my last top 10 list is my favorite books. And I sketched it out a couple weeks ago, and my short list had 28 books on it. So I decided to expand it to 50. So I have a video series coming very soon with my top 50 books. But I can give you my favorites in a couple genres because that won't necessarily give away the answer to that I hope all of you would want to see my favorite books, because that will be so much fun to shoot because it'll just be a gush fest with my favorites. So my favorite fantasy series is The Realm of the Elderlings. My favorite work of science fiction is Hyperion by Dan Simmons. Let's see, what else did I do in that series? My favorite work of historical fiction. What did I make number 1? Was it Pillars of the Earth, or was it Shogun, or no, what am I thinking? No, I don't remember. My favorite classic was East of Eden by John Steinbeck. So yeah, there's a few of my favorites. I've not read any Indian authors. If you have recommendations, please drop those below. I've been making a list throughout this video. Which book disappointed you and had high expectations before you started reading it? I can say this year, I've been reading the Asian Saga by James Clavell because I really loved Shogun and Taipan. And then the third book, Gaijin, was frankly my most anticipated read of 2024. And it was kind of a mixture of kind of the storyline in Taipan, but set in Japan. So kind of a mixture of those two. The biggest issue with Gaijin, because it was a great disappointment for me, is it was obvious he was starting maybe a series or at least having a sequel. So the ending was just not satisfactory because he was just kind of planning to continue the story. So unfortunately, that was one that I found disappointing. But, oh, okay. So that's the composer for the Joker film. Awesome. Chris, hey, I'm up for a GGK chat anytime. Love, love, love that author. Do I highlight and annotate my books? I do not. I don't even earmark. When I read a hardcover, I take the dust jacket off. I like my books to be pristine. If I do take a note, sometimes what I might do is just like jot it down on my phone or take a picture of a page, you know, pointing it out. But for the most part, I don't do that. I mentioned this in my last vlog with when I did my Memories of Ice vlog, is that for me, when I'm doing those kinds of things, it detracts from the reading experience because I love immersion. And if I'm taking notes, if I'm annotating, if I'm doing those kinds of things, yes, I may remember things better, but it lowers the enjoyment for me. And I love to read, and that's the primary reason behind me wanting to read. So even if maybe my reviews or thoughts on books would be better by doing those things, I'd rather not do them because I just love reading. That's what I want to do. Yeah, I agree. Howard Shore's score for Lord of the Rings is amazing. Fantasy short story collections. Actually, the next one I'll be reading in this vein is Janny Wirtz has one out. There Lies Camelot, I think is the name for that one. But there is some short stories in the Earthsea universe, which is probably my favorite in this vein. Tales from Earthsea, I think is what it's called. It makes sense if you don't read it independently. If you read it as part of that read, which you should, because that series is amazing. But for me, in many ways, the short stories collection, I think, was even better than those novels. And I really enjoyed that series. The short stories had just an amazing amount of world building within them. And they did kind of bridge some things from the early novels to the last novel. So if you haven't read those, I mean, pick them all up. But that's one short story collection in the fantasy genre I would definitely recommend. I am excited about Wind and Truth coming out. It's coming out in December. Unfortunately, so I sketched out my kind of reading schedule. I'm not getting to that till May. So it's going to be a while for me, and I'll miss all the conversations, but I just can't fit it in. I have a lot of travel in December, and then I'm starting a chunky book series in January that I won't be able to just throw this in there. Sanderson reads fast, but it's like a 1,300 page book or something. So that's going to be a bit. Hey, that's a great choice. I would like to have dinner with Matt Cawthon too. What authors would I like to have dinner with? Oh, geez. Well, I opened this Pandora's box. So, man, so many of them. Stephen King, of course. Joe Abercrombie seems like he is just fun. He would be up there. Robin Hobb. I mean, any of my favorite authors. Those are kind of the living authors, kind of the classic authors. I would like to, just because I enjoyed kind of reading about their lives. I think some of the kind of lost generation authors, like I think it would be interesting to meet Hemingway or meet F. Scott Fitzgerald. So I think those. Oh yeah, how could I forget Kaylee? I could have just said Kaylee, River, and Inara. That would have been a different kind of answer. Hyperion is my favorite book ever. Awesome. Underrated Indian horror author. I'm writing this one down. Jaya Prakash, Satya Murthy. Let me write that down. Come tomorrow. Cool. Which book got me into reading? And so for me, it was in elementary school. I discovered the Hardy Boys Mysteries by Franklin W. Dixon, although that's not a person. It was a pen name. And it wasn't until I read like 40 of them, because even back then I was just voracious reader. I just tore through these things, that I realized there were about 3 or 4 different plots and they were all kind of the same, but I still loved them. I loved mystery novels when I was that age. I read Hardy Boys was my gateway. I read a lot of Nancy Drew. Encyclopedia Brown was another one that I enjoyed back then. And that got me going for sure. When I got into middle school, that's when I got into fantasy, and my gateway was Lloyd Alexander. The Book of Three was my starting point. So, do I ever use ebooks to read or prefer physical? I prefer physical because I'm a very visual person in general. And sometimes I like to reread passages. And for me, it's always easier to find that in a physical book, because I'll know, oh, that was a few pages ago. It was at the bottom of the left hand of a page. Like, I can remember that. An ebook, everything looks the same. Additionally, there's just something I connect with a physical copy more for some reason than with an ebook. I'm not sure why, but I found that. But I do read ebooks, especially when I travel. Like this summer, I was in Europe for 16 days, and I read like a whole bunch of books because I was on buses and trains and things like that. So traveling, I take my Kindle. But beyond that, I pretty much exclusively read physical books. That Way Lies Camelot. Thank you, Janny. So that's the short story collection that I'll be reading after Night Shift for me. Jump Lahiri. Yes, I read her short story collection. I've briefly forgotten the name. Someone else can show me there. Thanks, Joanna. Thanks for stopping by. Most stunning SF story ever read, The Cold Equations. I'm writing that down too. I'm almost on my second page of notes from today. If I read Lincoln in the Bardo, if so, what recommend? I've not. That's another one that's on the spreadsheet, just haven't gotten to yet. Have I read the book The Physician by Noah Gordon? I've not heard of that one. Have I read Gene Wolfe? I've not read Gene Wolfe. Frankly, I'm a little scared of Gene Wolfe. I don't know if I'm ready for Gene Wolfe yet. He's on my TBR spreadsheet, so he's in that someday range, but I'm just not sure. If I like Shogun, I like Aztec by Gary Jennings. Yeah, I've heard about this book. Yeah, so I'll have to check that one out too. Have I been to Germany? Yes, I've been to Germany twice. My first one was 2008. I ran the Berlin Marathon, so I was in Berlin for about 5 or 6 days. And then second time was actually this summer. I was on a tour with a music group, and we finished up in this little town in Germany called Dinkelsbühl, which was really cool. It was one of those medieval walled cities, kind of in Bavaria. And one of my most memorable moments this entire trip was one morning I got up early and I went for a run, and I ran around the walled city. And it was just so memorable doing that. But yeah, and of course, Frankfurt Airport is about all I saw. But we stopped in Dachau as well. So I've been to Germany twice. Definitely will go again. Got to go to Berlin and hang out with Matt for sure. Yeah, so someone else, Julius Caesar Reyes, agrees that it feels different when you read an ebook. Philippines, yeah, sometimes you have no choice. Absolutely. Evie, thank you. That's great. I do have a bunch of anthology science fiction related on my TBR spreadsheet that I have to get to. Brian says I'm ready for Gene Wolfe, so maybe I'll have to do that. Gene Wolfe requires focus as he plays off the nuances of perspective. So absolutely. But what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to have one hard read at a time, and right now that's Malazan for me. So yes, Berlin's definitely a must. All right, let's give away another book. So the next book, so this one's going to be a fun one because this is going to be you're going to get a choice if you choose this. So another one of the self-pub authors that I reached out to was Michael R. Schultis, And I've read 2 books by him. And I was just talking with him and I said, hey, why don't we give the person a choice, since you have 2 books out. One's his newest book and one is the first of his book series. So the first in his book series, let me try to center these, is The Altar of My Fate, which is the first book of his Rostoval saga. This is fantasy, and this is kind of a throwback to Sword and Sorcery. But it's in a Middle Eastern setting, which I really enjoyed. And it's just some really detailed world building for sure. The story focuses on, it's kind of a very classic Sword and Sorcery where the main character is just all about glory and conquest and all of that. And that's kind of what you follow. And it was a good read for me. I finished this about 2 weeks ago, really enjoyed it. It is book 1 of the Rostoval saga. Rostoval's the main character, and I'll definitely be reading onward in this series. There are 5 books so far. I'm not sure if that's the end of the series or if Schultis has more planned. But definitely I'll be continuing this series. Altar of My Fate is a very patriarchal society. So just so you know, if you are choosing between these 2 books, one of the aspects of kind of the conquest and glory is slaves, and particularly female slaves are kind of a form of currency in this world. But I never felt it was exploitative or anything like that. And in fact, there are a couple of the characters that had, I think, a high degree of agency, as well as a brilliant character arc for one of them. So this is definitely a book I enjoyed. His other book that I enjoyed is Arc of Ascension. Sorry, I'm not mirrored, so I want to do this. And this is a sci-fi thriller, kind of space opera that he put out last year and sent this to me. And I read it right away. This is a real quick read. This is a chunkier one. This is a thinner one. This is really a short novel, Arc of Ascension, or novella. Some really interesting world building here. This is one, I think I put it down in like 2 reading sessions because I just had to find out what was happening. And I really liked the world building aspects of this a bit, which I see with these 2 books, that Schultis is an author that takes his time and makes sure that his setting is fully established. So our next pick will be one of these 2 books. So let me bring up the wheel again. Share screen. All right, here is our wheel of names again. We've had 2 winners so far. Mindlin won the Garden Gnome. Nemo won Lincoln Lawyer. Let's see who wins. A book of choice by Michael R. Schultis. All right, I'm sending a book to India, and it's cool because Sunanda's in the chat. So congratulations, Sunanda. So let me go back to here. Again, any of you that win, just look for a. I will do a email. I'll send you an email so that you can send me your address and all of that. So very cool. 2 of the 3 have been in the chat. That's so cool as well. So let's go back to the chat, and then when I get caught up, we'll do another drawing. You can and should totally read Wolf. Sorry, is that my Midwestern accent coming through? Of all the fantasy stories you've read, which one has your favorite magic systems? So you asked about magic systems, so I guess I have to choose one that has a magic system. I prefer soft magic systems, personally. I like the mystical nature of magic. But as far as ones that do have a decided magic system with rules that are clearly laid out, I still think that Allomancy in the first Mistborn series is my favorite. I think for me, having read everything by Sanderson, well, everything Cosmere by Sanderson up to this point, I still think that one was the best. I think he's gotten a little bit over-enthusiastic about his magic systems, and he tends to, I think, over-explain a little bit and keep telling you about it. And for me, it really detracts from the story. And that's what I felt in Mistborn Era 2. He was so excited about the new areas that he was taking Allomancy that he kind of continually had to tell us about it. So anyway, that's probably still my favorite. All right. Liverpool's a great place to visit. I'm in all biased. Aslan, yeah, the Middle Eastern inspired fantasy, Alter My Fate. That's one of the only ones that I can think of at this point. So another Gene Wolfe, pronouncing the L, isn't a commitment. An evil guest, interesting. Awesome. So I'll be sending you Alter My Fate. Very cool. Yeah, I think that's just the active attention, which I do enjoy that quite a bit. I enjoy that aspect about Malazan, but even Guy Gavriel K, I feel that you have to have a bit of a focus because he tends to throw a plot twist at you in the most innocuous little sentences, which is good. Jimmy says Wolf too. That's because we both grew up kind of near Upper Appalachia, so that's probably a little bit of a dialect there. So never win. You did. Very cool. Hey, Philip, thanks for stopping by. Philip will be on that collaboration video that I mentioned last week as well, or last week. Tomorrow as well. I mentioned earlier in the live stream here. The collaboration about some of the best of fantasy of the 21st century. So same favorites. You love Allomancy as well. Have I read Marie Lu? I have not read anything by Marie Lu. So another one to write down and explore. That's one of the coolest things I think about being on BookTube is, of course, having a channel, you give lots of recommendations, but I've probably received more recommendations from the comments. And like today, I've written down like 10 things already from this stream that's like an hour old. So, yeah, so it's really cool to get recommendations from all of you. It's tough though, because the TBR spreadsheet. I read 100 books a year and it still grows every year. So I'm never going to run out of books that I want to read. And yes, you couldn't have a collab video about the best of fantasy without Philip Chase, the best of fantasy, being part of it. All right, let's give away another book. I have another one. This was from my shelf, and this is another one that I just upgraded to a hardcover. I saw recently Carlos from StoryTube called this the Great American Novel, and this is The Power of the Dog by Don Winslow. And this deals with drug cartels and is just a sprawling kind of epic novel that is amazing, but it's not like crazy thick. It's the first in a loosely connected series, or at least I think it's loosely connected, at least loosely connected by time. But there's a second book called The Cartel, third book's called The Border. And I read this. This was my first book by Don Winslow. And Don Winslow is my new priority in crime fiction. I've now read everything by Connolly, although he has a new one coming out in October I'll read. I've read everything by Lehane, and I'll be catching up on Lehane, catching up on my rereads with Lehane. But after that, Don Winslow is my priority author in this genre. So I look forward to reading more by him. I've only read 2 by him so far, but I have read enough that is definitely an author that I certainly enjoy. So this is the next giveaway. Let me bring up the wheel of names again. Once again, if any of you are winners, I will send you an email at the probably later today or tomorrow. And I will give you the, just for you to give me the address that I will send your book. And again, I'm sending at least one internationally already, which is so cool to me. All right, so let's see who's going to win The Power of the Dog by Don Winslow. Oh, Andrew Heim. Awesome. Andrew's been around the channel for quite a long time. So congratulations, Andrew, for winning The Power of the Dog. And again, look for that email soon. So very cool. Let me get caught back up on the comments. So let's see, where were we? Talking about Wolf versus Wolf. Poem. Interesting. I love dialects. I've seen some quizzes online where you can, for English speakers, you can say the way you say certain things, and it'll kind of say where you grew up or where you're from. And I find that very interesting. Although I know my pronunciation of a lot of things has changed through the years, just because I've lived 4 different states now, and I've actually lived in Texas now for how long? 23, almost 23 years. So some of those have creeped in, although I don't really say y'all very often. Yeah, the struggle is real with TBR piles, right? Oh, speaking of TBR pile, how long is mine? So I try not to have a huge physical TBR, but I do. I have, if you see the bookshelf behind me, I have about 2 full rows of unread books. And then I have a smaller bookshelf in my guest bedroom that it's about 1.5 shelves. So probably, I don't know, maybe 50 books, something like that, unread. My main shelf over here, virtually everything has been read on the shelf, except for my Dickens collection. I haven't read everything of that. And then a couple of the other ones that I'm still working on. But for the most part, I don't put a book on the main shelf unless I've read it. I don't know why. That's just a weird quirk for me. I know that's different than a lot of different booktubers. I've not read Rebecca by du Maurier. That is on the list. I know Joanna had talked about that at one point. Murphy Napier loves that book too. You only have a Song for Arbonne, want to get into GGK. Absolutely. Song for Arbonne is my favorite. So fiction villain you think is particularly well written? I think in general, there's so many great modern authors that do this so well that for me, I kind of prefer maybe the villains that are more kind of the shades of gray where you kind of understand them. But if I had to pick one fiction villain that I just kind of loathe with every ounce of my being, there's actually 2 in the Live Ship Traders trilogy. One I won't mention because there's kind of spoilers around whether that person's a villain or not. But I would say my other one is I hate Kyle, like with every ounce of my being from that series. So that would probably be one. And again, that's because Hobb is just, she's just so good. But even like I've read, Robin Hobb has a series, a short story collection, The Inheritance and other stories, where one of the stories in there, the villain in a short story is so vile that I hated them like 3 pages in. So I think that authors like her are just particularly great at that. What's the genre you read most books from in a year? That's definitely the fantasy genre. So even though I do tend to read, like this month, assuming I finish the last 2 books I have planned, I think it'll be 9 books, 5 genres, but I think like 4 of them will be fantasy novels. So that's still the genre that I'm reading the most. And that's mainly because I took such a break from the fantasy genre. You know, taking a big break from the genre, I had all this catch up to do because I took, almost 20 years off. So I'm trying to catch up on that. Favorite Tolkien character, Samwise. Absolutely Samwise. Love Song for Arbonne. What you'd read next by Kay. Lines of Al-Rassan, I think, is another must read from that author. So I definitely go there next. Is my love for music what makes Song for Arbonne special for me? I think that's a part of it. I think that is definitely a big part of it for me, is that there is that musical tie-in. Additionally, the troubadour aspect of it really touched me personally because when I went to music school, for me, it was a very nostalgic, think back to music school. For me, that's when I started the path of my life and my career and my passion all wrapped up into one. And one of the things that you learn in your first music history class is you learn about the troubadours. And reading about this in many ways made me nostalgic for the days that I was taking those first steps to being who I am as a person. So in many ways, that book brought out those emotions for me. But the book is beautiful. I mean, it's so well done. It's characterization is incredible. The plotting, the story. all of the elements. I mean, just K can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. And he has maybe the best writing style for me that I've enjoyed. There's just a richness, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's dense. It's just beautiful, beautiful writing. I definitely appreciate the craft. So yes, everyone hates Kyle from Live Ship for sure. Can't thank you enough for random comment for Mystic River. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I do my best. I'm not always successful, but I do my best to try to answer every single YouTube comment. Sometimes when it gets busy, I don't get to all of them. So my apologies if I ever miss any, but I firmly believe if you take the time out to watch my video and leave me a comment, I want to at least thank you for that interaction. Because again, I love the interactive side of having a channel. I mean, that's huge for me. Again, just the community side of this is remarkable for me. But yeah, I'm glad that you love Mystic River. It is one of his best. And yeah, I think all of Lahane's books are on the TBR. There's a couple that maybe aren't quite as good as the others, but for the most part, he is consistently great. I haven't read Faithful and the Fallen. Do not tell Ed and Will this, but I haven't gotten to that yet. So I'm going to the next comment quickly. Last book you read was set in Texas. Awesome. My favorite book set in Texas is Lonesome Dove, for sure. Gail Song. Yeah, I have Lawless. I have her books on my, not my physical, but my spreadsheet TBR. So I definitely look forward to those. I know Theo talked about those books recently in his kind of top books he wants to read. Example of a well-written TV or movie villain. What would you say makes or breaks a good villain character? Let me give you a maybe an unpopular opinion, but I think Walter White is a brilliant TV villain. And I don't think he's an anti-hero. I think he's a villain. Maybe an anti-villain because there are aspects of his story that you like. I think for me, what makes or breaks a good villain character is kind of knowing their motivations and that they're not just kind of like old school. Well, they're just bad. They're bad for bad sake. But knowing that, for instance, like a Walter White, that he came at what he came at a place where he was sick and he had no money and he needed money. So that's where it started. And then it kind of snowballed into what he became. So I think for me, even with literary villains as well, I think when we understand a motivation, it just adds a lot of, adds a lot of nuance to those kinds of characters. So for me, that is probably one that sticks out in my mind. Yeah, I stopped making book haul videos because I only make one video a month and one video a week. So I try to reserve those for other types of videos. I probably will do maybe a physical TBR recap, like where I am with the books, because those kind of videos show like the things I'll be reading soon. But kind of a mini one, I do a quarterly video of what I plan on reading. So at the end of September, I'll do kind of my fall, autumn reading plans. So you'll get to see some of those because I usually talk about 20 books in that video. So that'll be like a minimal one. Care to reveal to us the book that made you weep the most? Assassin's Fate by Robin Hobb. I was a blubbering mess after finishing that book. Kyle's the worst. Yes. And the other guy, yeah, I didn't want to ruin it because, yeah, it's kind of a spoiler, but there's another character in Live Ship Traders that is definitely a villain. Heidi, that's funny. The Troubadours remind you the characters in Rent. Yes. Blaze. Yeah. Blaze is probably my favorite character of Guy Gavriel K at this point. Hey, the Rogue is here from Ireland. Thanks for stopping by. Yes, Walter White. Same lane, curious, how would you then describe Cat Eye Saul Goodman? So I've not watched Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul, was that the name of the show? I think. So I don't know if I saw enough of him, but he's kind of one of those. I mean, he's a typical, my apologies to lawyers in the crowd, but he's a typical lawyer that'll just do whatever for his client, regardless of whether it's good or bad. So I guess Saul Goodman or that kind of character would be kind of a neutral character, or maybe just a character that's in it for them. I'm not sure. All right, let's do another giveaway. So I have 3 left. Another one is, this is another work by self-published author, and all of these I'm pretty sure are autographed. But let's see. So this is one I talked about earlier this year, and I had the author on the channel, did an interview with the author, and this is The Crimes of Rooker Flynn by A.R. Witham. Kind of a creepy cover here. Arachnophobes need not apply for this series, because these things here are called the Schick, and they're not tiny little spiders. They're big and they're horrifying. But anyway, Crimes of Rooker Flynn is the first in a trilogy. The second book is about to come out. I was an alpha reader along with Esme was here earlier. She was one of the other alpha readers for this series, and really enjoyed that process. And I love seeing the final product here. And A.R. Witham is the author of the Legend of Black Jack, which a lot of people read, but that was very different from that. Legend of Black Jack was a kind of read a little younger. It was a very lighthearted adventure tale. And Crimes of Rooker Flynn, well, Crimes of Rooker Flynn is a lot darker, and it follows a character from the Legend of Black Jack who finds himself in the Locke Institute. And this is the first book of the Locke Institute trilogy. But the Locke Institute is basically a prison. And he and another protagonist, which I won't reveal because it's a minor spoilerish, are just trying to figure out the way how to get out of this prison. And I really love the setting, and the world building is fantastic. And it's a very good book that I enjoyed thoroughly. So I'm really happy that Witham sent this to me so that I can send it to you. So let's bring out the forgot to write down the last one. Let's bring out the wheel of names and see who our winner is. Once again, if you are a winner, look for a email from me in the next day or two to get your address. Again, I know we have at least one international winner already, which is exciting to me. So let's spin the wheel and see who I'll be sending the Crimes of Rooker Flynn to. And it is Philip O. So congratulations to Philip O. Again, I will reach out to you in the next week or so and get your address and send you a book. So this is fun. I'm really curious to see where all these books are going to go. And again, I'm doing all this just as a way to say thank you. The community around the channel has been just remarkable for me, especially given how slow to grow this channel was at the start. And just meeting viewers and readers from all across the globe has been just such a fun thing for me. So let's get back to the comments. Let's see. Yes, I've heard that Better Call Saul, did I get the right name? I think that's Better Call Saul. I've heard it's actually better than Breaking Bad. I think Breaking Bad for me is a top 5 series, but Better Call Saul might be better from what a lot of people say. So I definitely will watch it at some point. It's on the ever-growing list. Usually I watch a lot of things in the summer, and I pare down that list of shows, but I ended up doing a rewatch of Lost, which is my favorite show of all time. And I haven't watched anything else. I'm about 7 episodes from finishing. I think this is my 4th or 5th time watching the show. And it gets better every single time. But anyway, so, I mean, Better Call Saul will be on the to view list at some point. Have I read any Stephen Donaldson? Yes, I read the first 2 Thomas Covenant series in high school, and I remember quite a bit. It's one of those series, I guess, because it's so different from everything else that I was reading at the time. I remember the first trilogy quite a bit. I don't remember the second trilogy quite as much, but that's also on my reread list. So sometime I won't say soon, because it's probably not going to be soon, but maybe in the next couple of years, I'll start a reread of those two series. So yeah, spinoffs are always suspicious for sure, because they generally are kind of a shadow of the original series. Brilliant cover. Yeah, I think that was in regards to the Crimes of Rooker Flynn for sure. Cynthia likes Breaking Bad more than Better Call Saul, but it seems like everybody likes both of them for sure. Black Mirror, I've seen a few episodes. I need to go back to that one because I've heard that's such a great show. Micah, thanks for hanging out, and it's almost 3 a.m. So yeah, dip out now, and I'll see you on the fireside. But thanks for hopping by. Oh, I forgot about the More Dance Need Duology. I read these as well. This was in high school as well. I had that duology. But yeah, Donaldson is one that I do want to get to. Where am I on the Rift War series? So I will be starting the Serpent War saga at the end of this month. I'm going to read one September, October, November, and December to finish out the year with that series. I'm reading the Jimmy the Handbooks. I have those are kind of standalones that he wrote, kind of co-wrote. I'm probably going to read those next year at some point. So I read the order that I'm doing is kind of I think it's the alternate order on the Cride website, I think is what I've done. So the order that I read was the Rift War, and then I read the Empire trilogy, then I read the two Krondor Sons duology, and now I'm reading Serpent War, and then the Jimmy the Hand, those 3 books, which I think are called Legends of the Rift War. I think those will be next after this one. But I'm really excited for Serpent War because I've heard really good things about that series. And I'm really enjoying this. I really like, of all of these, the one thing I talked about is when I rediscovered fantasy, the one thing that I did is when I kind of committed myself to reading fantasy, I did reread a lot of the authors I read most in the 80s and 90s. And of all of those, Feist's World was the one that I was most intrigued to continue. So I am looking forward to just making my way through those series as I go through. My Memories of Ice vlog was perfect timing. Oh, awesome. Very cool. I'm so glad that I gave that one another shot. And I'll be reading book 4, House of Chains. I have that scheduled in November. So I'll be going that. Malazan's going to take me a while. So favorite fictional monster in fantasy or sci-fi? Hey, since Philip was here, I don't know if he's still here, but he was here. I have to say Grendel. It's been a while since I've read Beowulf, but let me give Grendel for that. Hey, Jeff is here. Thank you once again, Jeff. I did give away your book first, and it's going to Mindolin. So Mindolin will be reading the Garden Gnome. So thanks again for sending me the book and the little gnome that will be part of that giveaway. So let's see. Sebastian has Dune, Sun Eater, Red Rising, Star Wars Legend on TBR. Other sci-fi series or books you'd recommend? My favorite is Hyperion Cantos. I also I love Foundation. I know a lot of people don't. I think sometimes the more classic novels that maybe don't focus as much on character as the more modern kind of manner of storytelling, people don't like them as much, but I really loved Foundation. I love the ideas within, and it really just stuck with me. I mean, you see in the back of my videos, I have a Dune and Foundation shelf because those are 2 of my favorites of all of them. Favorite First Law book out of the ones I've read so far? That would be The Trouble with Peace. That was the second book of the Age of Madness series. I loved how I got to the end and I knew the story wasn't done, but I had absolutely no idea where the 3rd book was going to go. because he had kind of ended what could have been a great ending to a series. It could have kind of ended there. I mean, it was mostly done. At least he thought it was done. And then he went another direction, and it seemed like, oh yeah, that's logical, but I didn't know where it was going next. But I'll be honest, I love pretty much every book in the First Law universe. I mean, all of them are like pretty amazing for me. Favorite medium-sized historical fiction? Man, I love the chunkers. Give me a second. Let me look at the shelf. Well, The Given Day by Dennis Lehane. That's one. Can we call The Grapes of Wrath historical fiction? I mean, it kind of is now, even though it wasn't written that way at the time. I would say that. What else historical fiction is popping out on the shelf that I see? Medium size. I love the chunkers. I love Shogun. I love Pillars of the Earth. I love Gone with the Wind. How about a general answer of anything by Bernard Cornwell? Or in England, they call him Bernard Cornwell. Can't say it. I have to say Bernard. I read Lord of the Shattered Land. I don't know that series. Drop the author in there as well. How about, oh, I love Ender's Game. Yeah, absolutely love Ender's Game. I have a few videos. I have a controversial one of my Ender's reading order, which has my lowest kind of like percentage because anyway, check that one out if you want to see my reading order. I gave my reasons why. Any count how many books I've read till now. I'm 50 years old, so I've read a lot. I know that it's probably got to be somewhere around 2,000 books in my lifetime would be my guess. Because I know even since I started logging books on Goodreads, which is only about 10 or 15 years, I've read 1,000 in that time. So I'm sure I'm upward of 2,000 books at this point. Chonker historical fiction unparalleled. Have to read Dorothy Dunnett. I've heard that author's name, but I'm writing it down now. Because I do enjoy the chunky books. Always have. Howard Andrew Jones. So that was Lord of Shattered Land by Howard Andrew Jones. I've never heard of that series. Is that fantasy, historical fiction? Let me know. I've never heard of that one. But definitely would want to check it out. All right, we have 2 books left. One of them is in the chat right now. So earlier this year, Janny Wirtz sent me couple of her books, and she said one of them would be a perfect one for a giveaway. So let me read what she wrote me, because Janny, thank you. I cherish the note. It will stay with my copy of To Ride Hell's Chasm the rest of my life. This is a teaser copy of Traitor Knots, which is volume 7 of Wars of Light and Shadow. And Janny said that some readers started here and was just able to look at the glossary and be able to understand all of it very well, and then went back to volume 1. So a lot of people read it and were able to realize that they liked it enough and were able to go on. And this is a very big, she said it was a teaser's copy, and it's a kind of it's the trade paperback size, like 9 inches tall or whatever. So it's definitely a nice version of this that you say. And she said, I signed it, so you can use it as a giveaway or pass it on if I'd like. And I've been saving this for the giveaway. I will read this. The reason that I'm doing this as a giveaway is, again, I want to give back to the community. And that's why I wanted to choose these last 2 books in particular are kind of special books. I mean, this was sent to me by the author and signed by the author. And again, I love the note. And the last book I'm going to give out is actually a special edition that I got from a Kickstarter. So these are kind of the crown jewels of these giveaways. And the other reason I'm giving it out is I'm not going to get to it for several years, because the way that I don't want to start the Wars of Light and Shadow until I finish Malazan. And the way that I'm reading Malazan right now, it's going to take a while, because I'm reading at the pace of 2 or 3 a year, and I have 7 to go. So you do the math. It's going to be several years. I don't want this to sit on my TBR shelf for several years when someone can be reading it and enjoying it. So that's the big reason that I wanted to put this on here. So, but also with her works, I'm going to be reading the short story collection next. And then I have To Ride Hell's Chasm. I also want to read Master of Whitestorm, and then the Cycle of Fire. I'm going to buy that omnibus and read that trilogy as well. I'm not always successful. I try to read an author as chronological as I can. I'm not always successful with that, but I do want to get to that. So let's go ahead and spin the wheel to see who's going to be getting Traitor Knots. This is the penultimate drawing. So if you're still on the list, there are 77 of you left. And let's see who I'm sending Traitor Knots to. I wish they were like background music for this, or Wheel of Fortune theme or something like that. Oh, how cool. She was just in the chat. So Krista, if you're still there, I'll be reaching out via email to get your address and send you Traitor Knots. So very, very cool. Penultimate drawing. So no, Janny, you are the best. It's so cool. I mean, like, I love the Empire trilogy, and the fact that I get to interact with you is just so amazing to me. Yay, Chris is still here. It's so cool. We've had 3 winners here in the chat. So very, very cool. So yeah, so Krista, just look for an email from me today or tomorrow, and I'll be sending that book to you sometime in the next week or 2. Jeff said this is his best effort at text elevator music. I should have just put something on the phone or something. Let me go get caught up in the comments here. So let's see. Oh, Lord of Shattered. That's the one. Oh, I see it here. Okay, Lord of Shattered, Andrew Howard Jones. Okay, so hey, I've gotten 2 recommendations for that, which means I put a star next to it on my notes from the live stream here. So let me catch back up here. Was I always a reader? Yes, I was always a reader from my earliest days. I think I mentioned this before, but I read at a very early age because my mother always read to me at night, and I started reading the books. I follow along, and at one point I read a book back at her at some point. And apparently I've been reading since I've been 3 or 4 years old. I don't know how old, but so I've always been a reader. So I got to kindergarten, and at the time it wasn't common to read before kindergarten. And when we started to learn how to read, the teacher saw that I knew how to read. So I was able to go read with the first graders. And it was in many ways kind of an early source of pride for me that I was reading with the older kids, you know? So because that I've always been a reader, it was just something that I did early. And because I had this pride, I was also an only child. And it was a way for me to occupy my time and entertain myself. So I've always been a reader. Probably the only time in my life I didn't read a lot was college and grad school, because I had a lot of assigned reading and those kinds of things. But beyond that, I've always been, you know, a big reader for sure. Paul just finished Malazan. Your mind is fried. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting there. You will likely see, I've mentioned a couple times in this live stream, the video that I hope to put out tomorrow, assuming I get it edited today, is a collaboration with 18 other booktubers talking about their favorite works of fantasy in the 21st century, and Malazan's definitely in that. So Dorothy Dunnett's influence is all over. Tons of authors touched by her work. You and GGK. It works for me. I have her written down. So this is back to the Lord of a Shattered Land by Andrew Howard Jones, classic sword and sorcery fantasy. Awesome. Yeah, Evie, just let me know. I'm cool reading The Gypsy whenever. The Gypsy's a book that Stephen Brust co-wrote with Megan Lindholm, aka Robin Hobb, that we're going to be buddy reading. Oh, and I'd love to hear what you're reading with Carlos and Yolanda. They're also on that video tomorrow. They're one of the channels that I love that talk about crime fiction too, which is great. So done it already on the TBR. I'll be adding her for sure. Let's see. All right, let me give away the last book. we've been here almost 2 hours. I'm happy to read answer any further questions you may have, but let's do the last giveaway. So the last giveaway was part of a Kickstarter, and the book is called The King Killing Queen by Sean Speakman. If you know Sean Speakman, he is the driving force. I don't know what his title is, if he's the publisher or CEO or whatever, of Grim Oak Press, of which I really love his, I really love what that kind of boutique publishing house does. They do a lot of kind of backlist type of series, and they do beautiful special editions. I know they've done recently Empire Trilogy. They've done all of the Rift War books. I have the box set of the Belgariad by David Eddings, which was my favorite series as a young person. And he has this is a beautiful edition, and it was a Kickstarter. And again, it's got there's illustrations in here, which you can see as I flip through, and then there's a lot of extra things here, just some bonus things that are kind of part of this series, just some kind of plates. There's like all these cool little perks that and some nice bookmarks. But this was, you know, one of the driving forces behind this giveaway is I wanted to give away something pretty nice. And Speakman is, in addition to that, I know he's friends with a lot of authors, and you know, he's kind of an important force in publishing right now. So King Killing Queen is going to be the final giveaway here. And again, this is a hardcover special edition. You've got on the back, you have Robin Hobb, Jacqueline Carey, Anna Smith Spark, Wesley Chu, and Terry Brooks singing the praises of this book. So I haven't read it, but you'll be getting what seems to be a really great book. So let's do the last giveaway. And once again, if you are a winner, I will reach out via email sometime in the next week, probably the next couple days, and I'll ship these as soon as I can. All right, final spin of the wheel. Here we go. Jeff's got the elevator music in the chat, and who we got? Oh, it was almost Sebastian. Michael Grovenberg. Congratulations to you. I will be reaching out, as I said, to send you this special edition pretty soon here. All right. So, oh, cool. King Killing Queen is quite unique. A cool mix of some Arthurian flavor and a unique take on a succession. Good stuff. Awesome. So there you go. So that was the final giveaway, but thank you, those of you that are still here just hanging out in the chat. Let's see where we were. Oh, your Long Valley collection. I've never even heard of that, and I'm a Steinbeck fan. The Long Valley. I don't think I've heard of that. Let me write that down, make sure I haven't missed that. My next Steinbeck is going to be, what do I have on the shelf? Tortilla Flat is the next one for me. Political sci-fi recommendations. Help me out, those in the chat. Let me try to think of one. I don't feel as well read, and I don't feel I've read a lot in that vein. I mean, there's a political aspect of Red Rising, I guess. Tough one. Help me out in the chat for that one. So, with Yolanda, Sunny Place for Shady People collection, Mariana Enriquez, Perfume, the Story of a Murderer. Never heard of those. Look forward to hearing your thoughts for that. Favorite fiction author when it comes to writing music? I'm not sure I understand the question. Clarify for me, Aslan, if you're still here. David Weber series. Recommendations outside of fantasy and sci-fi. Crime fiction authors that I love are Dennis Lehane, Michael Connolly, Don Winslow's on the list. I've read a little bit of Donald Westlake as well. I like Philip Abraham. Historical fiction, I have a video for that. I've liked some of Ken Follett's. I think he's not consistent, to be honest, although he plots really well, so he's consistent in that regard. But I do like Bernard I'm just going to say as Bernard. I can't say it the English way. Bernard Cornwell for historical fiction is definitely a recommendation. I just did a video of some of my favorite memoirs and biographies. If you're interested in those, go check those out as well. I also have a video of my favorite classics. Like I love Steinbeck is a favorite of mine, which we've talked about Steinbeck here a little bit as this has gone on. So hopefully that'll satisfy that. Oh, good. Thank you, Matt. Terra Ignota, political sci-fi and amazing. Back to that one. Culture novels by Banks are sort of political sometimes. That author is kind of intimidating to look at because he has kind of two sides. He has Ian Banks books, and then he has Ian M. Banks books, and some of them are hard sci-fi, some of them are not. And then the culture series, there's like ways in and out of them, which is very interesting. But yeah, I don't know a lot of those, quite so well. But anyway, everybody, we are here at about the 2-hour mark. So I'm going to go eat lunch and edit my video for tomorrow that I hope that all of you will check out. You'll want to check out because I asked the question, what is the best fantasy novel of the 21st century? And several of the 18 booktubers that contributed to that video answered the question. Several of them skirted the question in very clever ways, but it's just kind of a gush fest of some of the best fantasy works of the 21st century. So I hope you'll check that out tomorrow. Once again, I just want to thank all of you for the support in letting this little booktube channel turn into 8,000 subscribers. And I hope that the giveaways have been just a nice way for me to say thank you to all of you, all of those that have watched videos throughout the years and continue to like, comment, subscribe, all of those things. So thank you all for hanging out today. And I just want to thank you again for supporting Red Fury Books. And I hope to see you in the chat in the next one. So take care, everybody.